I thought I was looking at my own credit report. Instead, I was looking at proof that my brother had been living an entirely different life using my name. 3 credit cards. A personal loan. An SUV I had never seen. And nearly $80,000 of debt attached to my social security number. I remember sitting in my car outside the bank, staring at the screen on my phone while my hands shook so badly I could barely scroll. The loan officer had just denied my mortgage application. I was 29 years old. I'd spent years saving every extra dollar, working overtime, skipping vacations, and doing everything right. Yet according to the bank, I was financially reckless. According to the bank, I had missed payments for months. According to the bank, I was drowning in debt. The problem was, none of it belonged to me. And the worst part? The person responsible wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a hacker. It wasn't some scammer overseas. It was my older brother. The same brother my parents had spent our entire lives defending. The same brother they would later tell me to forgive. Even after he nearly destroyed my future. Growing up, my brother Ethan was the golden child. If he got a C in school, my parents said the teacher was unfair. If I got an A-, they asked what happened to the other points. Everything Ethan did was somehow excusable. Everything I did had to be earned. I learned early not to complain about it. It was easier that way. By adulthood, Ethan had bounced between jobs for years. He always had a reason. His boss hated him. His coworkers were jealous. The company was toxic. Nothing was ever his fault. Meanwhile, I worked steadily, built savings, and stayed out of trouble. We weren't particularly close, but we weren't enemies either. At least that's what I thought. The nightmare started when I applied for a mortgage. I had finally found a small house I loved. Nothing fancy. Just a place of my own. I expected the approval process to be routine. Instead, the loan officer looked at me with concern. "Are you aware of the delinquent accounts on your credit history?" I laughed. "What delinquent accounts?" She turned the monitor toward me. My stomach dropped. I didn't recognize any of them. There were credit cards from banks I'd never used. A vehicle loan. Several collections accounts. Late payments stretching back years. I felt sick. At first I thought there had been some mistake. Maybe mixed records. Maybe identity theft. The next few weeks became a blur of phone calls. I contacted every lender. Requested records. Demanded copies of applications. Then the documents started arriving. And every new envelope made things worse. The applications contained my social security number. My birth date. My full legal name. Everything matched me. Except one detail. The address. Every account listed the same apartment address. An address I had never lived at. An address that belonged to Ethan. I remember sitting at my kitchen table surrounded by paperwork. Loan documents. Account statements. Collection notices. And there it was. My brother's address attached to debts in my name. I wanted to believe there was some explanation. A misunderstanding. A mistake. But deep down, I already knew. The final confirmation came when one lender emailed me a copy of a driver's license used during verification. The picture wasn't mine. It was Ethan. I just sat there staring at the screen. My own brother had stolen my identity. Not once. Not accidentally. For years. He had built an entire financial life using my information. And I had no idea. When I confronted my parents with the evidence, I expected shock. I expected outrage. I expected them to demand answers. Instead, my mother went quiet. My father sighed. Actually sighed. Like this was some inconvenience. My mother finally said, "There must be an explanation." I slid the papers across the table. The explanation is that Ethan committed fraud. My father rubbed his forehead. Let's not use words like that. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What words? Fraud? Because that's exactly what this is. Neither of them answered. And in that moment I realized something terrifying. They weren't surprised. Not really. They already knew Ethan had financial problems. They just never imagined I'd be the one paying for them. The next day I drove to Ethan's apartment. I rehearsed 100 speeches on the way there. None of them prepared me for how calm he looked when he opened the door. Like he'd been expecting me. I held up the paperwork. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. He glanced at the documents. Then shrugged. Actually shrugged. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Those 4 words nearly broke me. Not a big deal? You stole my identity. He crossed his arms. I was going to pay everything back. When? He didn't answer. When, Ethan? Eventually he muttered, I don't know. I felt years of frustration boiling over. Do you understand what you've done? I lost a house because of this. His expression hardened. You always have everything. I stared at him. What? You always land on your feet. His voice grew louder. Good job. Good credit. Savings. Everyone thinks you're perfect. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So your solution was to steal from me? It wasn't stealing. It literally was. Then he said something I'll never forget. It was my turn. My turn. As if my life was some prize he'd been denied. As if destroying my future was justified because he envied it. I left before I said something I'd regret. But that wasn't the end. Because 2 days later, my parents invited me over. And that's where things got worse. Before I continue, I need to ask you something. If your own brother stole your identity, ruined your credit, and cost you your dream home, would you call the police? Or would you try to handle it within the family? Think about that. Because I genuinely didn't know what to do. When I arrived at my parents' house, Ethan was already there. I should have left immediately. Instead, I sat down. My mother looked nervous. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. Then Ethan started talking. Not apologizing. Explaining. Excusing. Justifying. Blaming. Everything except taking responsibility. After 20 minutes, my mother finally reached for my hand. Sweetheart, he's your brother. I pulled my hand away. And? Families make mistakes. I laughed. A bitter, angry laugh. Mistakes? Forgetting my birthday is a mistake. Taking out $80,000 in my name is a felony. Silence. Then my father said the sentence that changed everything. Can't you just forgive him? I honestly thought I'd misheard him. Forgive him? Yes. My father looked exhausted. The family has been through enough. The family. Not me. Not the victim. The family. I realized they weren't concerned about what Ethan had done. They were concerned about the consequences he might face. I looked directly at my brother. Did you tell them you'll go to prison if I report this? Nobody answered. Which was answer enough. My mother started crying. My father started talking about second chances. Ethan sat there quietly. Waiting. Not for forgiveness. For rescue. The same rescue he'd received his entire life. Only this time I wasn't willing to provide it. For weeks, I barely slept. Every option felt awful. If I reported him, I could destroy my family. If I didn't, I could destroy my future. The lenders made it clear. Without a police report and fraud investigation, the debt would remain attached to me. I would be responsible. Not Ethan. Me. That realization finally made the decision. I filed the report. The moment I signed the paperwork, I felt physically sick. But I also felt something else. Relief. For the first time, I was choosing myself. Not family expectations. Not guilt. Not peacekeeping. My future. The investigation took months. The evidence was overwhelming. Applications. Addresses. Digital records. Signatures. Account activity. Everything pointed to Ethan. Eventually, the fraudulent accounts were removed from my credit history. My score recovered. The debt disappeared. And Ethan faced consequences for what he'd done. My parents didn't speak to me for nearly 6 months. According to relatives, I had gone too far. Apparently, reporting identity theft was worse than committing it. I learned a painful lesson during that period. Some people don't want justice. They want silence. Silence is easier. Silence keeps the family image intact. Silence protects the wrong people. Eventually, my parents started talking to me again. Carefully. Awkwardly. Like there was a giant crack in the foundation of our relationship. Because there was. To this day, they've never fully admitted how wrong they were. They still say things like, "Everyone made mistakes." No. Everyone did not make mistakes. One person committed fraud. 2 people enabled it. And 1 person had to clean up the damage. Those aren't the same things. As for Ethan, we haven't spoken in years. Some people hear that and feel sad. I don't. Because sometimes losing a relationship is healthier than losing yourself. And if I had chosen forgiveness before accountability, I would have spent years paying for a crime I didn't commit. People love saying, blood is thicker than water. But blood doesn't erase consequences. Blood doesn't repair ruined credit. Blood doesn't buy back lost years. And blood doesn't give someone permission to destroy your future. Sometimes the people we share blood with are the people most willing to take advantage of our love. The hardest lesson I ever learned was this. Forgiveness is a gift. Not an obligation. And nobody gets to demand it from the person they betrayed. Especially when they haven't earned it. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do for your family is refuse to let them keep hurting you. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We will be happy to have you in our community.